All right, here we are reflecting, Jordan Garrett and I, Shannon Soger, reflecting on site visits from Friday, December 12th. We had Queen Bee Schools visit us in South Berwyn. And then today, December 16th, we had Brookwood School District 167 come on a visit. In our site visit reflections today, Jordan and I decided to go a little bit with the photo booth effect. So here we are in colored pencil. We feel like we're in a storybook. All right, so Jordan is the iCoach that assisted with both of these past two visits. So Jordan, can you tell us, reflect back to Friday, what schools did we see on Friday?
Sure. On Friday we saw Komensky for the elementary school and then Freedom for the middle school. And today for Monday we saw Irving Elementary School.
Great. So these visitors that came from Queen Bee and from Brookwood, what were they asking, the majority of the questions, what were they asking kind of for Friday and for today? What were they most curious about?
Both of the groups really focused on three different areas they wanted to see. They wanted to see the ownership of the students' work. They wanted to see the independence level in the classroom. And then they wanted to see the workflow of how the students turned in work and how the teachers received it, and just that whole workflow model.
Yeah, I feel like they were asking too a lot of management type questions. I know, for example, Brookwood, they are looking at going one-to-one. They're piloting it in one of their buildings, and so they were asking a lot of questions about management in terms of, well, what happens if a child breaks a device, or what if a kid forgets it? How do you teach the parents on how to use these applications at home? Those types of questions was what we got a lot today, I felt like, as well.
Mm-hmm. And on Friday they were really excited and interested in seeing how the students perceived the one-to-one device. So whether they were interested in it, did it seem like it was just another tool, was it just like a textbook or something, or were they actually excited and engaged in it, and did they take that ownership for themselves?
Mm-hmm. So a good portion of our visitors, I felt, from both Friday and today's visit, had never even seen a one-to-one classroom in action. So what would you say that they were most excited to see in these classroom visits?
They were really excited to see all the different apps that were used, so whether they were web-based or an actual downloadable app on the iPad, and see how we used them. And so something that I noticed a big group of teachers talking about today from the visit, the ones from Brookwood, is they were speaking about how it didn't matter what grade they were in or what subject they were in. They saw that a lot of the apps could be used across multiple platforms and across curricular too. So I had a first grade teacher I was talking to who said she walked into a kindergarten classroom and could see some of the apps being used in first grade in science, even though it was a reading class, whereas she also saw a fourth grade classroom and saw another program being used like Padlet, and said, I could totally use that with my first graders. It doesn't necessarily matter what grade it was used in or what level. It can be naturally differentiated that way.
Good, as we see with a lot of our applications, and that's kind of too how we always focus back on. It's not about the application or the grade level or the content or the tool. It's not about the app and the tool. It's about what's being done on that device.
Another thing too is I saw a few people get really excited about the immediate individualized feedback that students were getting in different center times. While the teacher could be in a guided reading group in the corner of the room, these kids were in different centers and they were getting that individualized immediate feedback from a program like iExcel or something of that nature, which seems like something that we were doing every day, but I think it's awesome to remember how important that is for the kids to be getting on a consistent basis.
I remember how excited I was when we first got iExcel, I think 4 years ago. So it's crazy it just becomes such a part of our daily routine, getting that instant feedback from some of those applications.
And even from each other too. So there was a fourth grader who was doing Storybird, and she kept talking about how she could go look at all of her other friends' books and give them feedback and comments and heart or like it, if you will, another kid's book, and how that really drove her to want to make a series with one of her friends. So they're actually in their second book of a series that they're making in 4th grade.
Which school was that at?
At Irving. It was in Corn Thoyer's room.
Oh. Well, speaking of shout-outs and what was happening in classrooms, who would you like to give a shout-out to from Komensky from Friday's visit? What teacher?
I really want to give a shout-out to Molly McElhorn. She's done a really great job with her kindergartners on the iPads, and they have a workflow model going with Words Their Way. And I know that was kind of tricky at first to get on the iPads with Smart Notebook, but she's done an excellent job with the kids downloading the Smart Notebook file, dragging and dropping, playing the Words Their Way games that are in the Smart Notebook, and then turning it back in to the teacher. And so that workflow model has really come full circle.
And Molly is on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Grab that. My shout out from last Friday's site visit for Freedom goes to Mike Belcaster. So some of you are familiar with the Bike Wit, WIT, Mike movement that has started over at Freedom. PE teacher basically took a group of students and staff out on a bike ride throughout Berwyn in the fall, and he created his first iMovie in this virtual reality bike ride where his students ride the exercise bikes in the Freedom Fitness Room, watching the flat screen TVs of the team actually riding their bikes throughout Berwyn. And it's all these different intervals. There's this like awesome like pumped up music that goes behind it. Anyway, so Mike has been waiting for a site visit to show off this video that he spent hours and hours and hours making for his kids, and that officially happened last Friday. So it was just unbelievable. Find Bike with Mike on Twitter, and also you can check out his 45-minute workout video in YouTube. But way to go, Mike.
And check out Molly at Miss McElhorn. So MSMCELHERNE.
Awesome.
She did great.
What about shout outs for today? So today's visit over to Irving, a couple elementary teachers. Who did shout out today?
I want to shout out Janet Bednar. I walked into her room and the students were doing different programs. I really loved, as a former 1st grade teacher, I know how important sight words can be. And so I was talking to Shannon about how great she had taken the balance of manipulatives and then the app, and they were doing a sight word game where each student was trying to say the sight word the fastest, and then they would type it in, hear it to the iPad, say it back to each other, and then continue on with the sight word game. All while across the room, there was another group of kids making story kit books, recording their voices, and then playing them back to each other.
Awesome.
And so that was happening on 2 different sides of the room, which I thought was really awesome.
And that's a kindergarten classroom.
Kindergarten iPads.
Kindergarten iPads. Well, my shout out goes to a 2nd grade teacher, Kristen Kennedy, who is piloting one-to-one iPads at the 2nd grade level. And Kristen is known for her QR codes all around the classroom. It is the most interactive classroom I have seen probably across the district. I would actually really encourage any South Berwyn teacher to go and visit Kristen's room. Kristen is iTeach1, the number 1, TO, and then 1 on Twitter, and she's also iTeach121.blogspot.com. Her blog is fabulous. But in Kristen's room, kids are in all different areas of the classroom scanning QR codes, but they're all taking them to different things while Kristen is working with the guided reading group. Guided math. So she was doing a guided group, and then I went over to these 2 students, Evie, who's just one of my favorites. I said, Evie, what are you doing? And there's 2 dice on the table that had a QR code on each side of the dice. And so she said, well, I roll the dice and it tells me a number and I write the number down, and then I roll this dice and I scan the QR code and then write the number down, and I have to subtract those numbers. She said, but I have to do this dice first and then this one second. Well, they were subtracting. So I said, well, why do you have to do that dice first? And she said, because that's the one with the bigger number, where you have to, the bigger number has to go on top when I'm subtracting. And then when she got her answer, then she went and scanned something else to get to know, to check her work. Her ability to explain all of that and with QR, was just phenomenal. And then finally I asked her, I said, Evie, what would you have preferred if your teacher just gave you a worksheet that had these problems in it that you could have just answered? And she said, oh, this way is funner. She said funner with the QR codes, and went on and on and on. So there's my shout out to Kristen Kennedy over at Irving. We'd like to kind of wrap up here with a big thank you to our teacher and admin representatives that attended the debriefing. So who attended? You want to talk about?
Sure. So we want to give a big thank you to Lauren Slinker, Karen Marino, Dan King, and Jeremy Majeski for coming to for hosting the site visit with us on Friday, as well as Dr. Fields. And then today, we want to say a big thank you to Mary Havis, Hannah Wagner, and Dr. Fields again. Thank you so much for letting us have the site visit in your buildings.
And being a part of that debrief, because that after piece really helps our visitors a lot ask specific further on questions. So in closing, we're going to share our favorite evaluation quotes from what our visitors filled out at the end of today.
So one from today said, I loved seeing how the students were able to explain exactly what they were doing and why. And I think that really sums up how today's site visit at Irving went.
My eval quote I'd like to share is from last Friday, and it is in regards to our professional development. She said, I would love to actually see your PD in action. I find your teacher-led choice model encouraging and would love to bring this back to our district. So that was great. I hope you enjoyed our reflection from these past 2 site visits, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.